Can you see me clearly?
Yes, I can. Yes. Okay, so thanks for everyone for joining for today. Bridget is someone that was introduced to the other day only, and we had a great conversation around what Bridget differentiates herself in the market in terms of what she does, and I thought would really add value into our series, because considering what she does, I probably am the person that needs it the most today. So later in the conversation, we'll join. So I don't know if you want to just tell us more about you, Bridget.
Thanks so much, Nolene. I really appreciate it. And I also want to say thank you and congratulations on this amazing initiative that you've started. I think it is really, really valuable, especially right now. So thank you.
And welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure. And welcome everyone to today's session. Just going to cover a very few basics. So firstly, who am I? And then I'm going to go into mentally and emotionally where we are today, the effects of stress and the stages of loss. And then I'm going to bring in the solution, which is EFT tapping, which I've been working with for 13 years now. And then we're going to do a practical session between us as the detox and the reset for us coping with the lockdown. So how does that sound?
Oh, good.
Perfect.
Good. So who am I? Basically, I'm a lay counselor, a therapist, and an author of Stress Gone. So here is my book. I've written 3 books, but Stress Gone is actually my bestseller. And no surprises why, because everybody is so stressed. I think they're looking for solutions. Just to give you a little bit of my background, I've been an entrepreneur. I've owned several businesses, made and lost money. I've lived a really out-the-box kind of lifestyle. So I've run Comrades, 2 Oceans, cycled Argus, climbed Kilimanjaro twice. I've spent 10, nearly 11 months living in a Land Rover through Africa, traveling overland. I've spent time in ashrams in India, spent 6 months in Peru. So really, I am a nomadic spirit it's just who I am. And that has really given me an insight into a lot of amazing people. I love cultures, different nationalities, different types of people. And I think that's what's drawn me to doing the work I do today, because I really am a people's person. And over the decades, I've been interested in complementary therapy. So probably 28, 30 years, I've studied all sorts of different types of complementary therapies. And in doing so, I was always struck by the fact that something was missing. It wasn't quite gelling with me until 2007 when I discovered EFT. It was like, this is what I've been looking for. And so in my work today, I draw on my own personal life experiences, but I also draw on many of the complementary therapies that I've studied as well. So I bring a whole different dynamic into the space. I don't just follow the traditional EFT process. So some people want to say that I'm more like a life coach. Other people want to say that I'm very much like a therapist. So it's up to you as to how you'd want to define me. At the end of the day, all I want to do is help people and bring some peace of mind to people with life's challenges. So just to share, I've also burnt out twice. I've lost loved ones, lost my mum to cancer. My only brother was killed in a car accident. I've overcome an illness, which I ended up being severely depressed. So I've learned a lot about depression through my own personal experience. I've also had several traumas. I've been held up, hijacked. I've had relationship and business stresses as well. So really what I'm trying to share with you is that I can meet people where they're at, because of what I've gone through personally. Not to say that I understand exactly what someone's going through, but at least I do believe that my total life experiences brings something really dynamic into the space. And that's why I believe I get the success that I do today. So with that, I'd just like to share where I believe we are at mentally and emotionally today with the lockdown. I think it's fair to say that all of us have been affected by coronavirus and the associated radical 21-day lockdown that kind of came as a surprise to every one of us, I think, and so quickly too. And I do believe that this has brought up a myriad and triggered a myriad of different emotions for us. Anxiety, panic, fears, uncertainty, worries, stress, anger, even depression. And this is not only associated with our own health and well-being. Obviously, none of us want to get the virus and be tested positive, because that in itself brings up all sorts of challenges for some people. So that's a given that we are feeling stressed about that in itself. But also what this has triggered is the uncertainty, again, the anxiety, panic, and fears and worries that people are having about their financial situations, not only right now. So many people are living hand to mouth as it is, not only in South Africa, but globally, and the imminent and potential job losses. Would you agree that that is a huge challenge for everybody?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and then on top of that, we've been forced into isolation at home. For some people, they're sitting at home alone. For others, they're being forced into a situation with their family. So being with their partner, their spouse, their children 24/7, and now having to try and work.
I'm just imagining some of them are really difficult.
Yes. I think by the end of day 2, a lot of people were already wanting to throttle family members.
And we've been in a fortunate situation where we've kind of all been together for the last year already because of the situation with my man having a heart operation last year. So we kind of used to each other already, and so we actually get on, which is cool. So we all know each other's nuances, but I really feel sorry for those that actually fight a lot in the first place, and now they're put in the same room and the same house, and they've got nowhere to go.
Especially, Nolene, where their relationships were already in a challenging space as well. This has really brought home a lot of uncomfortable emotions for a lot of people. So I just think there's what I'm sensing and what I'm hearing from people is there's a lot of chaos and a lot of upheaval. And I've also heard these tragic jokes that are circulating online saying that there's going to be a high divorce rate looming as soon as lockdown is over. And then also some people saying that there's going to be a high birth rate come New Year. So, I mean, you've got to see the humor in this, but at the same time, I think that's really, really tragic.
Yeah, but there's one thing that I also saw that I don't think that we also realize is that school was sometimes an escape for a child in an abused home, and now they don't have an escape and they have to be at home. And I think that for me is the most heartbreaking.
Yeah, and for some parents, having their kids go to school was an escape as well. So yeah, and an escape generally in the day to get away from each other at home as well. So yeah, I just think all of these negative emotions, and I call them negative emotions, I'm talking specifically about anxiety, panic, fear, uncertainty, worry, stress, fears. All of these are affecting our innate equilibrium. So it's not only our health and well-being, it's our mental health. It's our ability to perform optimally, as well as to be creative, to come up with inspired solutions, especially in this traumatic time that we're in. How do you come up with inspired solutions when you are already stressed? And including our ability to adapt as well, I think is really being challenged. So being anxious and in panic or stress is triggering the fight and flight response for a lot of people, and that is negating our optimal performance abilities. So for some, the levels of anxiety, panic, stress, etc., is mild and manageable, whereas for others it's extreme to the point of simply not coping. And I do feel that the media has been somewhat responsible for heightening these levels and triggering what I like to say as sort of paranoia in some people. I've seen a lot of that starting to come up now as well in hearing what people are going through. As I heard a talk the other day, a Swiss doctor was saying that the first victim of this coronavirus was logic. I don't know if that makes any sense. But I think when we are stressed, our logic literally flies out the window. So I just very briefly want to discuss now the effects of stress. So we can argue that COVID-19, the statistics are no worse. In fact, they are statistically a lot less than the seasonal flu. Some say it's because of the 5G rollout, because of EMRs. Others are saying it's Bill Gates's vaccine drive that he apparently owns the coronavirus patent already. Others believe there's another conspiracy theory. Whatever your beliefs are around this, here's the thing. We are all being affected by this, all of us. And it's not just local, it's global, as we know. But there are very few people who are highly adaptable and can take this and run with it. Most of us, unfortunately, are challenged by change, especially something that is as radical as this. We innately resist change, and that's what causes a lot of stress for us, because what we resist persists. So when we are anxious and stressed, we cannot be logical, rational, and think linearly. The brain doesn't function that way. We're not meant to function that way, because what stress triggers is the fight, flight, or freeze response. And basically, the brain flips a switch. As a result, I don't know if any of you have heard of the amygdala, which is a set of nuclei here in the brain, on the temporal lobe of the brain, which controls the fight-flight response. It controls and is actually triggered by the six senses. Whatever we perceive and see around us via all six senses, we are able, that is being triggered, and then we go into the stress response. So the moment the amygdala flips a switch, we literally go out of our rational, logical, linear thought process, and we go into what is known as the animalic and the hindbrain, or it's also known as the autonomic brain. So when we go into that, we literally are just on react mode. We're not able to think our way through a paper pack. This is where we end up doing and saying the most inappropriate things. And afterwards, we go, oh my God, what was I saying? Why did I do that? Why did I behave that way? This is known typically as the amygdala hijack. But what it is, it's actually addressing us and looking after us in survival mode. So if you understand that, this is why so many people are struggling right now with fears and phobias, stress, anxiety, panic. All of that is being triggered constantly. And so we're acting out and we're behaving what some people will term as badly. It's just because we don't have the coping mechanisms. And that's what I really hope to achieve with the tapping session later on, is that we're going to get into that, because that's going to address that. But I just wanted to discuss this element. Nolene, we talked about this very briefly yesterday, is that this lockdown has created a lot of denial. And this I want to touch on specifically, because this is what is typically known as the stage of loss. For some people, you might know it as the grief cycle that is triggered whenever we hear bad news. So those people who are in denial at the moment, those are the ones who are driving around acting as if nothing's happened. They're carrying on as normal. And they are the ones who are refusing to adhere to the rules of staying at home and only going out during emergencies. And then what's happening is the law-abiding citizens are the ones who are getting angered by this. This whole stage of loss is denial always is triggered first whenever we hear tragic news. So this is anything that's life-threatening, an accident, death, a disease, life-threatening disease. Denial is always the first thing. And denial can actually last for a very long time. It's not just a 5-minute thing. For some people, it's weeks. For some people, it's even months. From denial, we go into what is typically known as the 5 stages of loss. We go into anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. And everyone goes through the stage of loss in their own way. So the coronavirus and the lockdown is affecting people differently. I don't know if you have any questions at this stage. I just want to have a sip of water. Do you have any questions at this point, Nolene or Yvonne?
I don't have anything. I know Yvonne wanted to possibly say something earlier.
Are you there? Oh, who is this coming in? Somebody, let me see if I can add them into the call. Just a seckie. I just need to add somebody else into the call. I can just find them. Nolene, do you have any questions? Any other questions or anything you want to add while I'm just looking for, where is this person? I just want to add in here.
No, I don't have anything specifically at this point. I think it's, you know, from a challenge perspective, I'm just seeing that, you know, even within the space of the hospital. So this morning, 4 o'clock this morning, we had to go to the hospital because my man was coughing for the last few days and had quite a few of the different symptoms. So this morning, 4 o'clock, we're off to the hospital because he couldn't stop coughing and was wheezing. There is something on his lungs after 5 or 6 hours at the hospital. They did a swab and gave him vitamins and sent him home. So there's not even an antibiotic. But from a response perspective, when you first say to them, I possibly have the virus and
Yeah.
you need to treat me that way, they still were touching him without gloves, and that I think as well, where you go, and now you're touching another patient, the stethoscope, the doctor was using the stethoscope on him, and you're kind of going, and you didn't even sterilize that with the patient before that or after this patient. So how are you transmitting this disease and making it worse inside the hospital? So we were actually very grateful that they sent us home, because he's probably most likely to survive at home if he does have COVID than in a hospital.
Absolutely. And of course, that then adds additional stress to you and to your husband as well.
Yes.
Sorry, guys, I lost the sound a bit there, so I don't know what you're asking there. Sorry about that.
Okay, not a problem. Hello, Ben.
Hi, sorry.
Hi, well. Can you hear?
Yeah, no, I'm all back now. Sorry, I lost the sound there for a bit. Sorry about that one.
Problem. Okay. So, Nolene, as we're saying, these are all additional stresses that one doesn't want to have to add into the mix of the stresses that we're already going through.
Yeah.
That's why I really believe that EFT can be such a powerful solution for all of us right now. So what is EFT and how does it work? I'll just go into that explanation very briefly. Very simple.
I think, Bridget, I just muted by accident Yvonne instead of myself. Yvonne, I didn't mean to do that. I was pressing the wrong button. So the joys of technology, I don't know actually how to unmute, because it says mute. I've muted Yvonne. Or did I mute you, or did you mute yourself?
I think she's muted. Oh, there we are.
I'm fine now. I can hear you, and I've unmuted myself. I'm just muting myself because I've got dogs that bark all the time.
Okay, thanks, Yvonne. I appreciate your consideration. Thanks.
No problem.
Okay, so can you hear me? Oh, it looks like somebody else is trying to come in, but they're phoning instead of just sending a message. I'm going to decline it for the moment. Can you still see me?
Yes,
we can still see you.
I can hear you.
Okay. I don't know who this is to add them into the conversation now. Hopefully it's updating the conversation, hopefully. Okay. All right, so very simply, EFT is a mechanical process. It is innate to our body's natural wisdom and healing. For instance, it's something we all do. That's why I was saying the other day about us tapping on the forehead, on our chest, and tapping our fingers on a countertop when we are irritated or frustrated. Can you still hear me and see me? Because my screen has changed.
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, great. So basically, because this is innate to our body's wisdom, EFT tapping yields phenomenal results really quickly because it is trying to eliminate stress. And this is why it's so effective. So EFT is a combination of talk therapy, some NLP, as well as physical tapping on the body. Excuse me. Let me just have another sip of water. And we actually speak out the challenge that we're faced with. EFT also is holistic in that we are working with both the mind as well as the body. So we are, in essence, working with what is going on cognitively, in other words, what we're thinking about, the issue itself, how we think about it, the emotions related to that issue, as well as where that shows up physically in our body. So just for a moment, think of a stress, any stress that you have, you will notice your body responds immediately. Maybe you want to just share that. I just would like to check in and see if you think about that stress. Just notice, where do you feel it physically? Maybe it's a tightness in the chest. Maybe it's an unease in the tummy. Neck and shoulders could be tight. If you can give me some feedback, that would be great.
I get in my tension in my neck muscles and in my shoulders.
Yeah, most of my stress goes there, but when I'm anxious, it's almost in my throat, not necessarily my chest, but in my throat.
Right. So can you see that just that thought about the stress triggered those feelings?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
And I didn't even ask you to dwell on it and go into the story around it, or what it is, that stress that you had. So it could have been financial, could have been relationship, could have been work related, it could be anything, right? But as you thought about it, your body responded immediately.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
And that is the kind of thing that I target when I'm working with somebody in a session. We work with the physical aspect as well as what's going on, the thought of it, and then the emotional. So that's the holistic. That's why I say it is holistic mind and body. And as we start tapping, the release and the resolution comes relatively quickly. When I say relatively quickly, it's not, sometimes it's instantaneous within a round or two, but up to 2 hours, which I think is pretty good in terms of instantaneous therapy, you're going to get relief. And I guarantee that I will achieve that with somebody when I work with them. In a 2-hour session, they will have some kind of relief. So basically, EFT can address any kind of negative emotion, and it can address a belief as well as some aches and pains. And this is where traditional talk therapy unfortunately doesn't always achieve resolution, is because they're only working mostly on a cognitive level. They might ask you, how are you feeling? This is not to diss that therapy process, but they don't engage the physical body. And this is why I achieve the results I do with EFT, and all the practitioners around the world achieve phenomenal results, because we're working with 3 different aspects simultaneously: cognitively, emotionally, and physically. And then, unfortunately, talk therapy, what happens, as I was explaining this with you when we were chatting yesterday, Nolene, is that every time we retell the story, especially traumatic stories, what we are doing is we're re-traumatizing the body every time we retell that story. And if there's no outlet for that, this is why people end up in traditional talk therapy for months, if not years, because there is no escape. Because every time you retell the story, you're re-embellishing the effects on your physical body. So you're re-traumatizing. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yep.
Any questions so far?
Not at the moment.
So who uses EFT? I'd just like to share this with you, because I'd like for people to understand the value of EFT. It is used worldwide by medical practitioners, so that's doctors, nurses, dentists, specialists, psychiatrists, psychologists. Life coaches use it. Sports and performance enhancement coaches use it, especially in areas like it's been used in America for football, golf, in tennis, in the arts and drama. Teachers are using it now in classrooms as well, to help the children, to calm them down, and also so that they can then take on board everything that they've been taught in a very calm way, because there's no stress. So that what you were talking about, Nolene, a bit earlier, with the children who escape abuse in homes, if this was being taught as a therapy in the schools, those children would be better equipped to be able to cope with where they're at home, and they would be better equipped to be able to take on the learning in the classroom. So this is the value of EFT. It's also been used with war veterans around the world, particularly with post-traumatic stress disorder. I've done it, and a lot of sessions with ex-conscription campaign military guys who had to go to the old apartheid military in here in South Africa. Worked with a number of them around PTSD, as well as others who suffer PTSD because of multiple traumas that they've had throughout their life. EFT is also being used in rehabs and for weight loss as well. So the application of EFT is really, really astounding. And I just wanted to put that out there, because I want people to understand the value that this can bring to their lives. So when I discovered EFT in 2007, 13 years ago, it changed my life, and has subsequently changed the lives of hundreds upon hundreds of my clients around the globe, not just here in South Africa, because I work online via Skype most of the time. So over these years, I've chosen to specialize in specific areas. So I've specialized in stress and anger management, including PTSD, as I mentioned, trauma, grief and loss, depression, addictions, fears and phobias, anxiety and panic attacks, and relationship issues. Nolene, perhaps now you're understanding why I put my hand up to connect with the community, because I'm able to address a lot of things that people are being triggered right now with the with the coronavirus and the lockdown. Making sense?
Yes, it is making sense.
Any
So
questions?
how can, if we had to think about that anxiety, what could you show us now that could actually assist? Because now you're talking and telling us about the stuff, but I think it's more about now, how do we apply one or two of those things within our lives right now so that we can calm ourselves down?
And that's what I want to go into right now, is the practical aspect. So if you and
Awesome.
Yvonne to share where you're at, what is it that you're feeling? Is it stress? Is it anxiety? Is it fear? I just want to grab my pen so I can just write a couple of things down as we talk. Where is it that you're at? I would love you to share, and because your feedback is important, that's what we're going to tap around.
Okay, so Yvonne, do you want to share, or do you want me to go first?
You can go first and then I'll go after you.
Okay, cool. I think mine now is at an anxious perspective, because my husband had open heart surgery last year and nearly died because he wasn't getting enough oxygen, etc. And had a mild stroke again then in February, and now possibly has COVID. And that was this morning. So I'm at the point where you kind of, it's a bit surreal, but also you kind of stressed because you don't know what you don't know yet. You don't know how the outcome is going to be. You're sitting in a position where you're actually just praying at this point that he's going to be okay and that we're all going to be okay. Because now if he has COVID and lands up in hospital and somehow we're all infected as a family, every single one of us will be isolated if we go into hospital. And if something happens, we can't say goodbye.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of anxiety around about this, because if he goes into hospital and he checks in, that's it until he checks back out or goes to heaven. So, you know, that's the surreal place that I'm at right now today.
Yeah. If you had to measure that, Nolene, on a scale of 0 to 10, what would you give that number of anxiety right now?
About 15.
Yeah, so it's high. Yeah. Yeah, I totally get it. I mean, this is the love of your life, and in many respects your whole identity as well.
Yeah.
It's your whole family, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and where do you feel this anxiety in your body?
Right now it's in my throat because I want to cry.
Totally understandable, that.
Absolutely, and please feel free to cry. Really, please feel free to cry if we're tapping. So, Yvonne, where are you at? Nolene, we'll come back to you. I just want to see where Yvonne is at, because maybe I can combine some of this together.
Also quite anxious. I'm working from home, but I have got autoimmune diseases, so my immunity is very compromised. My boyfriend is having to work through this entire time. So he is with a lot of workers who are obviously in the townships, which is very worrying because he's in contact with a lot of people. So, you know, we were very worried about him contracting coronavirus and in bringing that back into the house with me. So I'm very anxious being with an immune system that is compromised. So yes, it is worrying. But yeah, that's at the moment where I sit.
Sure. And imagine that the effect on you. Where are you feeling that anxiety?
In my neck and shoulders and in my head, I get extreme headaches from the anxiety, and then also with the work that is at the moment, you know, that we are having to work, but they just before we left, they told us that they're going to take 8 days off our leave and the rest unpaid. So that is also, you know, a lot of anxiety that has caused that as well. So, you know, it's causing a lot of stress, you know, with financial worries and so on as well.
Yeah, which is adding to the too, I'm sure.
Most definitely.
I've got a question for you though, Yvonne. Are they still expecting you to work from home even and take leave at the same time?
They are, Nolene. They are saying that if we work, we have to prove that we worked, and then they'll look at it after the time. But my biggest worry is, how do you prove that you worked? And secondly, at the end of the day, you're going to work the whole time, and then they're going to take your leave anyway. So
Okay, so I have a friend. He's looks like he's supposed to be on the call, but he's not on the call.
yes.
Ben van Koller, I'm going to connect the two of you because he's an IT guy that will be able to help you with, just from a physical perspective, just recording what you're doing and how much work you're doing. So he's an IT dude, so that can help you.
That'll be wonderful. Thank you.
Sorry, Bridget. I just thought I'd solve a practical issue to help with the physical stress.
No, that's great, Nolene. Thank you so much.
So, Yvonne, when you think about this anxiety that you're feeling, together with what's happening with your work, as well as your boyfriend being in the townships and everything that you're feeling, what number would you give that out of 10?
I'd say about 10.
10. Okay. So for both you and Nolene, your anxiety is really, really high at the moment. Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that with me. What we're going to do is a practical session now. Can you see my hands and can you see what I'm doing?
Yes.
Yes.
So what I want you to do, both of you, is to take your hands like that, and you can either tap like this on the side of the hand, whichever side suits you best, or both hands like that. We're tapping on the soft part of the outside of the hand. And I'm just going to say a few words and we'll do a round. You're just going to follow what I am doing. I do want to just add a disclaimer right now. If you don't feel comfortable touching your own face, then just tap slightly to the side and imagine that you are touching your face. And I understand that because of the whole corona, we shouldn't be touching our face. This is the traditional EFT that I'm using, but if it feels uncomfortable, when I get there, I'll just remind you again. So I want you to say, even though I'm feeling so anxious right now, you can both say it out aloud.
Even though I'm feeling so anxious right now.
Because of my circumstances.
Because of my circumstances.
Because of my circumstances.
With my husband and my boyfriend.
With my husband and my boyfriend. I've got two of those.
This is so stressful for me right now.
This is so stressful for me right now.
All this anxiety that I'm feeling in my body.
All this anxiety that I'm feeling in my body.
Right now.
I deeply and completely.
Deeply and completely.
Accept myself and how I feel.
Accept myself and how I feel.
Even though I am so anxious right now because of what's happening in my environment.
Even though I'm so happening in my environment.
And with my loved ones, I deeply and completely.
And with my loved ones, I deeply and completely.
Accept myself and how I feel.
Accept myself and how I feel.
Even though I am so anxious and it's way over the top.
Even though I'm so anxious and it's way over the top.
This is how I feel.
This is how I feel.
And I love and accept myself anyway.
And I love and accept myself anyway.
Okay, so now we're going to go to the eyebrows. If you don't want to touch your face, then just be like an inch away from your face and tap as if you are, because the body's energy will still pick this up. So if you don't want to touch your face, that's okay. I am comfortable with touching my face because I just washed my hands before the call. So all this anxiety that I'm feeling right now.
All this anxiety that I'm feeling right now.
Now we're going to move to the side of the eye. All this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
Under the eye. All this anxiety in my body that I can feel.
All this anxiety that in my body that I can feel.
Under the nose and chin. All this anxiety because of what's happening around me.
All this anxiety because of what's happening around me.
With my husband or my boyfriend in your case, Yvonne.
With my husband.
With my boyfriend.
All this anxiety that has been triggered because of these circumstances.
All this anxiety that has been triggered because of these circumstances.
Collarbone We're going to just go here, tapping just to the side of where a man's tie would be. All this anxiety I'm feeling.
All this anxiety I'm feeling.
It's natural and normal given the circumstances that I'm going through.
It's natural and normal given the circumstances I'm going through.
Under the arms, and this is where our bra straps are, ladies. Men, you know where ladies' bra strap is, so that's where we tap in. Under the arms. Okay, just a few inches down from the armpit, tapping there. All this anxiety that I feel.
All this anxiety that I feel.
The next point is what I call, what is known as the liver point. It's just on the ribs as they move away from the sternum. So just tapping there on the ribs. All this anxiety in my body.
All this anxiety in my body.
And on the wrists, so crossing the wrists one over the other. All this anxiety that I'm feeling, I'm choosing to release this anxiety now.
All this anxiety, I'm choosing to release it right now.
The head, releasing it and letting it go.
Releasing it and letting it go.
Okay, let's just take a nice deep breath now. Just notice any shift and change in how you're feeling. Check in with your throat. Nolene, you were saying earlier you wanted to cry. For you, Yvonne, I would check in with your neck and shoulders and that headache and just see if there's any shift and change in that. And has the number come down?
Definitely.
The numbers come down, but now I'm feeling pain under my armpits, not because I tapped hard. So now the pain is sitting, just under the armpits next to the breast.
Okay, so this is what happens, Nolene, is that when we checked in, initially it was around the throat area for you. This is typically what happens in an EFT session, is the energy moves around the body, and that's absolutely fine. If I was doing a private session with you, I would go into that space and see what that's about. But this is typically what happens. Often as the energy starts to dissipate, it shows up elsewhere in the body. And sometimes when it dissipates, like for you in the throat, there might be some other pain that you weren't aware of because this is so strong. And now it's showing up somewhere else because we've removed that area of physical aches, even though we weren't focusing on it. It has shifted naturally, energetically, and something else will show up. This is very typically what happens. So you were a 15 out of 10 earlier. What number would you give it now out of 10? The anxiety.
Probably a 10.
That's by a third. That is wonderful. And that was just one round. That's fantastic. Yeah. Well done. Yvonne, how are you feeling?
Good. It feels really like you got a relaxation in the shoulder muscles and so on. I must say the headache went up a notch, but as you say, it's where you're releasing something from out of there. I'd say around about a 7, an 8 or a 7 for me.
That's so wonderful. Good. So is this still anxiety for both of you? Do you still feel it's anxiety, or has the quality changed and become something else now?
I think it's released a little bit of anxiety. You feel a little bit relaxed. So it does help. It feels as if you put aside the anxiety for a while by doing that as well, and you release some of the anxiety.
Yeah. But is it still anxiety per se, or would you say it's something else?
Still anxiety.
Yeah, still anxiety.
Okay, that's great. So the reason I'm checking in with you is just so that you know where it is, and just check in with yourselves physically again and just notice where that still shows up. This is for your reference, not for me necessarily.
Yeah, it's still for me in my shoulders and my neck muscles, and of course in your head, my headaches.
Okay. And Nolene, for you?
Yeah, it's a little bit in my throat, but it's more now under my arms. So the anxiety is still there, just showing up in a different space.
Okay, so we're going to come back to the face. Remember, if you don't want to touch the face, just stay about an inch away from the face and keep tapping. And now I'm just going to bring in the physical aspects. I'm going to bring it in for both of you. So just tap through each other's. So even though my anxiety is still sitting.
Even though my anxiety is still sitting in my throat.
Shift it to under my armpit. And shift it a little bit under my armpit.
And
shift it a little bit under my armpit.
And
for Yvonne, under the eye, it's still in my neck and shoulders.
It's still in my neck and
shoulders.
I'm honoring my body and how it shows up, this anxiety.
I'm honoring my body and showing how it shows up in my anxiety.
So all this anxiety, I'm choosing to release it from my body now.
And all this anxiety, I'm choosing to release it right now.
All this anxiety, I'm choosing to let it go.
All this anxiety, I'm choosing to let it go.
Because I would like to feel completely relaxed and at ease.
Because I'd like to feel completely relaxed and at ease.
Under the arms, letting go of this remaining anxiety.
Letting go of
this remaining anxiety.
And on the liver point, letting go of this anxiety that's trapped in the energy of my body.
Letting go of the anxiety trapped in the energy of my body.
The wrist, letting go of the emotions around this anxiety.
Letting go of the emotions around this anxiety.
The head, releasing and letting go of this anxiety. Naturally, easily,
letting go of this anxiety.
Naturally, easily, and effortlessly releasing and letting go.
Naturally, easily, and effortlessly releasing and letting it go.
Okay, let's take a deep breath again and just notice, how does that feel now?
Much better. My headache feels as if it's been released. So yeah, good.
Nice. That's wonderful. Yvonne, how's the neck and shoulders feeling?
No, it feels good. I'd say very good. I'd say number 5 right now is for me. So yeah.
Okay, so your anxiety's dropped to a 5 now.
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. So that's half of where we started off with at a 10 out of 10 initially. And that's just in 2 rounds.
Exactly.
And what I have done is I haven't gone into any absolute specifics. I've just been very general in this tapping. Okay. For you, Nolene, how are you doing?
I think I've dropped to probably about an 8, so I'm also dropping.
Good.
So it does work, and I think that obviously it's something that if you do consistently, in terms of when you get stressed, that it definitely will help you through the process.
Absolutely. Now, for both of you, I haven't gone into the specifics. Okay. If I was doing a private session with you, I would. And just to be mindful of the time, because we're coming up for about 40 minutes, I think, now, Nolene. So I don't know if you
50.
are a couple of minutes. So I just want to be mindful and respectful of time.
So, yeah, I think we're almost on the hour. We're almost at 5 o'clock already. So a few more minutes, yeah.
So if I had to spend a little more time with you and with Yvonne in a private space, we would collapse this completely. And all I've done with you both is a very general round, 2 rounds actually, of tapping. And already you can see for both of you, this is half. Initially, Yvonne, you were at a 10 out of 10. It's come down to a 5 out of 10. The headaches have started to disperse and the neck is feeling lighter. For you, Nolene, it was like a 15 out of 10 when we started. That's come down. Again, it's halved to like an 8 out of 10. So that's almost half. And that feeling around your throat has already started to dissipate. So this is how quickly EFT actually works. Obviously, if there's if I worked with you individually, I would go straight into that and we'd really go into exactly what it is and maybe there are other things. That's where my investigative space comes in. So I just wanted to demonstrate how quickly this can work for anybody. That was no more than about, I would say maybe 10 minutes at the most, actually, that we worked on that. So this is the power of EFT. And this is why I say it is so good at detoxing and resetting where we are in terms of our mental health.
Awesome.
Definitely. Wonderful.
Any questions?
No, not at this space.
Awesome. So I'm just going to finish off because I'm sure people who listen to this will want to know a little bit more about what I can do. So I don't diagnose, I don't label, and I don't medicate in my sessions at all. I guarantee a result and relief in 2 hours. 90 to 95% of my clients only ever need 1 2-hour consultation when I work with them. I don't keep anybody in long drawn out sessions ever. I will only ever book 1 2-hour session with somebody. That's it. We then see where you're at, and if you need it after a follow-up, we'll see what you need. But I never book more than that. I then provide self-regulatory coping mechanisms for people to be able to use All of them are body-based, tapping being one of them. And I teach you how to use that. So you can use this in any day-to-day situation. And of course, all my sessions are online using Skype at the moment. And I've been doing online sessions with global clients. If you want to see my testimonials, please feel free to go to my website, which is www.bridget, BRIDGET, Edwards, EDWARDS.com. I have client testimonials there. And if you want to book a session with me, you're very welcome to email me, or I'll give you out my telephone number now. It's 083-675-3838. I'll repeat, 083-675-3838. And you're welcome to contact me, WhatsApp me, phone me. We can have a chat about just specific circumstances, and I can then help you. Nolene, I hope this has been beneficial and given some insight as to what's possible as a solution.
Absolutely. I think this is something that's different, that it's not, a lot of people, you're going to have to take medication for 6 months, and this one you have to do that, and this you have to go and see the psychologist on a weekly and a monthly basis until forever, and. So this is a very different technique that will help people right now in lockdown just calm that anxiety.
Most definitely.
Yeah. And what's your feedback and your thinking, Yvonne?
It's definitely one, for me, it's very, very good thing, because I'm very much against polls and all the rest of the things that people send you to. So yes, definitely for me, this was a wonderful session, and thank you very much for that. And thank you, Nolene, for doing this.
No, you're welcome. And I'll put the recording up so that we can view it later. So watch the Facebook, LinkedIn, whichever pages you went to. I'm going to just once the recording's available, I'll upload it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Bridget.
Send you the stages of loss if people want to go and look at that. I'll send you my link from my website if they'd like to go and look at that as well, to just get more understanding. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
It was
fun. Thank you, and take care and be safe. And Lena, I hope everything goes well at home.
Thanks, Yvonne. I appreciate it. You too.
Okay, bye.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye.